Next, I talked to Sharifa, who owns multiple properties in the city and is also a landlord. She shares the lessons she's learned along the way and how owning property is setting her up for the future.
I think a couple of things. One, in my father, my dad is from Jamaica. It's very much a cultural thing that you should own homes. And the joke is always like, well, like, why don't you have more homes by now? That's kind of a part of the culture. So I grew up around that. My dad was also in development, real estate development. And so just kind of being a little girl on the sites, like with the builders, you just kind of, it's a big part of who I am. Two is I always was told that it's a big part of kind of creating this generational wealth and having kind of that financial stability. And so that's the second part. And then third, when I moved to Chicago, you start paying rent. And then at some point your rent starts like just inching up to a place where it's like, why am I paying all this money when I can at least own something? COVID is really what was the trigger for me. I was in a 1-bedroom. Initially, I was looking for my own, like a condo, just to like move into with more space. I actually ended up going the route of a multi-unit. And so that was kind of the initial start to the journey. But eventually we ended up going with a new build, which I think was pretty interesting in the Austin neighborhood in Chicago on the west side. And so that process of making the decision to get a new build, I thought the house would be not have as many problems. So I learned some lessons there about new builds versus, established houses. And in that year, actually was like, I'm ready to get my own spot. And so that's when I purchased the place where I live now. I looked a lot into homebuyers programs, and I wish I had bought sooner because by the time I got ready to buy, I was financially, I was beyond the program for, lack of a better way of saying it. And so had I bought when my parents said to buy in my mid-20s, there's so many programs available that I would have been able to probably buy a couple houses had I just gone that route. 0 down payment, getting you in there. Because I think for a lot of people, it's not paying the mortgage that's the issue. It's saving up for the down payment. Most of us pay probably more sometimes in our rent than we do in our mortgage. But like you need a break on the, whatever thousands of dollars it is for all the costs in closing. So for me, I did save a lot. Was that December before COVID got, March was like when everybody kind of shut down. So the December before was actually at a neighborhood bar with some friends. And we're just talking about, what we're looking forward to in the new year and like the things, our goals. And all of us had the same goal around like owning property, having kind of a friend group or a business where we were buying property and renting it out, ideally to people that really needed the property in certain low income neighborhoods and being like good landlords because we all had the experience, whether it was a grandparent or a family member or a friend, where we saw kind of those landlords who were terrible in the way that they took care of the properties. And so that kind of morphed into like, oh, well, like if we're all interested, let's do it. And so we set up like an official meeting because all of us are in consulting. And so it was very formal. We like had the whiteboard and started to kind of outline out like, what are the things we need to do? So we have a charter, we have a actual contract that we live by. It has all the things in it. And that was a process because each of us had our own lawyers. And then the company that we were building had a lawyer. So anytime like a clause needed to be updated, it was like, I think it should be this. So like my lawyer says this. And so all the other lawyers had to weigh in. And then the company lawyer had to like put it in and give us like, hey, best practice is this. So it's 4 of us together. I think it's going well overall. The property is a duplex and it's in the kind of South Shore area. Inspectors are really important. On the property I bought with my friends, it was older. The guy who owned it was kind of like, take it or leave it. And so we did a lot more due diligence there. So we had our general inspector that came and I used the person that did my home. They were phenomenal. They were like climbing on roofs type of people, getting under stuff. So if you have an inspector and you see that they're kind of like halfway doing it. They should be getting in closets, getting on the floor, climbing down. If they're not doing that, then there's no way they can possibly see. And we also had like someone come out for each kind of major thing. So we had someone come out to look at the plumbing, electrical, the basement, the foundation. Ask all the questions. Ask the questions that you don't think are a big deal. Ask questions you do, because once you buy it, it's yours. There's no like sending it back in the first 30 days. My experience being a landlord, a lot of lessons. I think it's something no one can really prepare you for. And I am like the research queen. I have researched, talked to people. I joined real estate groups. Anytime I stop somebody like on the street, like I'm that person. And I talk to my parents because they have owned properties as well. My grandmother owned property. And so I think that process just still doesn't prepare you for every little thing. For our 3-unit, the top 2 are market rate folks, and then the bottom is CHA housing. And so, there's differentiators there, and like the process for getting people in, the timeline it takes with CHA, and like that whole process and being patient. I made the decision to get a property manager because of my job. People who own big apartment complexes could just decide tomorrow, like they're going to raise the rent $500, $600. I think that's like outrageous. And so having some sort of grasp on that is important to me. I think from where my family comes from, I think it's one way that my elders were able to like give back to their own grandkids is like when they got older, and my grandmother had a lot of properties. And so she was able to give her kids down payments for their houses or give money when it was needed. And that was like, my grandma's born, she was 102 when she passed away, like during COVID. So like that long ago, where Black people weren't really allowed to do certain things, like they figured out a way. So for me, it's like ensuring my nieces, nephews, little cousins, if you have kids, that they will have a way to be okay and some sort of stability for them and build wealth for yourself. If you're going to spend the money, why not pay yourself? Because whether you live in an apartment or you live in a home or townhome or condo, whatever you own, you're paying somebody that money. I remember having this conversation with a friend of mine, and she's like, well, like I don't have to worry about the repairs. And it's like, well, number 1, you can save for that. Number 2, you get to write some of that off. Number 3, just find a handyman. And for me, the genesis of like, for our generation, being able to have a stake in something, I think is super critical, especially for those who are African-American or who have like in this environment, you need to own to ensure that you will have something, right? Like I have seen people give like their grandparents owned homes, they sold it, and those homes are now worth millions of dollars. In LA, it happened all the time. I have a family in Inglewood, which is similar to the Inglewood here. Traditionally, Black neighborhood was super looked down upon because it like there's a direct pathway to the airport there. And now what do? They open SoFi Stadium, where the Rams play. All of that, homes that are literally like shotgun homes, 2 beds, 1 bath, haven't been updated to like 1950, are going for 800, 900, $1 million. That's without any updates. And so think about had you just held on to that, what you would have, like the power of what that would give you. So that's always my plea to people. I'm not saying it's easy. I think one thing that is a deterrent for folks is there are people who do get gifts from their parents. Like most Black and brown people do not have, the person to say, here's $25,000 or $50,000, or I'll pay for this. But I think it's worth saving up for. I am looking, I'm always a dreamer. So I'm like, I want like a 12 unit next time. Because once you get like certain things under your belt, it's like the same, it's going to be work, whether it's 2 units or 12. So like, why not go for something that's going to be more cash flow positive? I feel like anyone can do it if that's an area that you're into, because, my parents would say like, you're working for people, making them money, and like, you're able to problem solve, think through stuff. That is all this is. It's just another form of business, right? And like your clients are your tenants, and, it's same thing. So why not do it for yourself?